Have you ever been on an interview, a job interview, you didn't know the right answer to the question? Well, if you ever interview with Microsoft, be prepared for some crazy questions like, how many gas stations are there in the United States? How would you even know? Well, here with the right answers, the author of a brand new book, How Would You Move Mount Fuji, William Poundstone. It's great to have you on the show, William. I've read many of your other books. You've always had fun books that were interesting and challenging, and with the big secrets books and so forth. How did you get started doing this?
Really, I started getting frantic emails from friends who had interviewed at these high-tech companies saying they were asked a logic puzzle, and since I'm kind of known as a semi-expert on them, they would email it to me.
Yeah, what's the answer, Bill?
Exactly.
Is it just Microsoft? So it's other companies that do
No,
this?
it's in fact with the tight job market, it's really infiltrated the whole Fortune 500 now.
And what are they looking for? What kind of person? How does this help?
Basically, they're looking for mental flexibility. In the case of Microsoft, they feel that, the industry's changing so quickly that you can't really hire for a certain skill set. You need people who just are very flexible.
So it's not the right answer they're looking for necessarily. It's how you solve it?
Very definitely.
It's how you think about it.
You have to give how you come to that answer.
All right. Well, let's go through a Microsoft interview. Is the first thing that happens that they sit you down and say, why is a manhole cover round? When do they get to this point?
Yeah, well, it's usually as part of the other interview questions, yeah.
And then they move you up, right, as you go along, and do they get harder?
Yeah, it's about 5 different interviews in a typical interviewing process, and each person is allowed to have their own questions.
How did you get these questions? Did you have to, did Microsoft open its doors and say, come on in, we'll
Not
tell
officially, but I had lots of Microsoft employees who thought the book was a lot of fun and were willing to help me.
All right, let's do some right now. If you could... I don't even know why you'd ask this. If you could remove any of the states, which state would it be?
Well, that's what I call a fundamentally stupid question.
Right.
There's no smart answer to it, but the point is to challenge you to try and come up with a smart answer.
So if you just said Vermont, they wouldn't be enough. You'd have to say why.
No, they want to. You can start a conversation. You can say, well, what happens to the people in the removed state? If they're just vanishing, you want the smallest state in terms of population.
So they're interested in how in your interaction with them at that point. How creative you are?
Yeah, as some say, it's really an excuse to start a conversation where they can tell how smart you are.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Jeff Bezos used to ask that famous question in a fight between a gorilla and a mountain lion or something, who would win? And I guess it's the same idea, although nobody ever gave him the right answer. How many piano tuners are there in the world? How would you go about answering that one?
Well, it's just based on the idea that anyone should be able to estimate anything. So, the world's population, it's getting around 6 billion people. You can estimate what proportion of the world's homes have pianos, of course very small for the whole world. That gives you some idea of how much work there is for piano tuners in the world. Divide that by your 40-hour work week, and there you've got your...
Is the answer in here? Because now I want to know how many piano tuners there are.
Yeah.
You don't actually put answers to these questions.
No, I do put the actual answers, yes.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
Do you remember how many? You probably don't.
I don't remember offhand, but again, it is the method, and the interviewer is not going to know the real answer. And in fact, I looked on the net. There are organizations for piano tuners. Even they don't know.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
To answer the 50 states, because I just found this, the popular answers are Alaska, Hawaii, and North Dakota, probably because of low population.
Yeah, North Dakota.
Bad answer, Washington. Why? Guess why? Because that's where Microsoft is. Worst answer, I'd remove all of them.
A little hostility.
I love it. Now, do they mind that you're exposing their tricks?
Apparently not, because they've invited me to speak there next month.
Oh,
so,
good. So I guess they figure there's enough weird questions they're never going to run out.
You can always make variations on these.
This is an interesting one. It sounds on the face of it like a math question. Count in base. Now, we know base 2, binary.
Yeah.
Base -2.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing?
Well, no, and it's basically like asking you to diagram a sentence in Klingon.
Right.
You have to invent what base -2 would be and then go from that. So, it would be a positional notation with powers of -2.
They want you to do that?
Yeah. So,
I think I would never get a job at Microsoft in a million years. I would be intimidated by this.
It's a very intimidating question.
But you say college kids are not.
College kids, since they don't have a resume, they know that the only way you're going to impress an interviewer is by showing your mental ability in the interview. So a lot of them actually like these types of questions.
It at least gives them something to say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. How would you weigh a jet airplane without using scales?
Well, you want to know what's considered the right answer?
Yeah.
Okay, you put that airplane on some kind of a big ship, like an aircraft
And you see how
carrier.
deep it goes in the water.
Exactly. Draw a line on the hull where the water line is, then take the airplane off.
And what's the displacement?
Yeah, and then start piling 100-pound bags of concrete onto that ship until you know how many,
It doesn't sound like the right answer. I'm sorry, but if you say so, I believe you.
Yeah.
You actually, this is more than just fun because you talk about the best strategies for dealing with this if you're going to have this kind of an interview. So this would be a good way to prep for an interview with Microsoft. What are some of the things that you should avoid doing, for instance?
Well, you don't want to have dead air, as it were. When an interviewer asks you a question, you shouldn't just sit there and think. You should you should definitely explain your reasoning.
You don't go,
Yeah, that's a bad sign, I think.
There's a little office space there for you. Let me see if I have another. Well, how about the title? How would you move Mount Fuji?
Well, that's one of these great estimation questions. You have to figure out what would be involved, like where are you going to move it?
Right.
Are you going to blow it up with dynamite? Does that have to be in one piece? And then you estimate how much work it would be. And I think in the book I come to a decision that if the government of Japan really got behind this project,
which they'd have to,
and had the manpower, it would be about 3,000 years to move it.
I just love this. It's fun because it gets you thinking, but then it's also interesting because it does seem actually a good process. Do you think Microsoft and these other companies are happy with this? Is it working for them?
Yes, it's very much a part of their corporate culture. I think it's an excellent way of making sure that people will fit into this kind of high-pressure, competitive environment.
It is high pressure and competitive. You're sitting there with, somebody who's probably already a millionaire, very smart, clearly, and they're asking you questions that have no answer.
Yes.
Jiminy, I don't think I could do this. You know why manhole covers are around? Yes, you do. But if you can't think of the reason or the rationale, we've got an excerpt from Bill's book that explains it at thescreensavers.com. It's called How Would You Move Mount Fuji? Microsoft's Cult of the Puzzle. What fun. William Poundstone, the author. And as I said, read about manhole covers. Think about it. Don't read it till you think about it. Why would it be round? It's obvious.